I just watched the 4-hour cut of Justice League. I can't feel my butt anymore, but I have a review for you. Stay tuned. Zack Snyder's Justice League is a fascinating film. An unfiltered creative vision that perhaps needed a little bit of filtering. Not a ton, just enough. Just a little bit. For those who don't know, this is a recut version of Justice League from 2017. Director Zack Snyder walked away from the film in early spring 2017 before the film's release in November 2017. Those who don't know who Zack Snyder is, this is him. Hey Zack. He made films like this. He also made films like this. Director Joss Whedon, hey Joss, who really isn't that great of a director and made one good Marvel movie, stepped in with rewrites and reshoots and butchered the whole movie, and it was, not well received. So here we are, 2021, with a 4-hour and 2-minute cut of Justice League that Zack Snyder spent $70 million on so we could watch it at home in 4:3 full screen. The big question here is it better than the theatrical cut? Yes. How much better? Marginally. A lot of the problems that weren't related to Joss Whedon are still here. The tone is inconsistent, the pacing is all over the place, and there are so many unneeded moments. In fact, they doubled down on it by taking a 2-hour movie and making it 4 hours long. That is the biggest sin. This film is 4 hours long. That's too long. No one needs a 4-hour movie. This movie could have been cut down to 3 hours and been perfectly fine. It doesn't need to be 4 hours. I also just finished it like 10 minutes ago, so that's kind of... I'm in a lot of pain. The first hour or so alone could have been cut down to 30 minutes if they just stopped using slow motion, long shots, and extending every scene they could. It was like Zack Snyder's like, hey, I can do what I want now, so I'm just going to extend every scene beyond its breaking point. You keep going, the scene has to be done, right? No, it just keeps going. Sometimes there's music. Sometimes it's just Amy Adams brooding around. Sometimes it's Ben Affleck brooding around. Sometimes it's just, everyone brooding around. But my point is, the first hour is a slog to get through. There's a sweet spot between the Whedon version and the Snyder version that needed to be found on this film. So let's start with the good. Gone is the cheesy intro with Superman and his CG upper lip, and the burglar on the roof with Batman, all of that's gone. And also gone is the terrible Joss Whedon reshoots and writing. All the jokes stuck out like a sore thumb in the theatrical cut. And thankfully, they're gone. The longer running time does give us more character development and to understand the motivations of the individual Justice League members. And it also helps us understand the backstory importance of the film's MacGuffins, the mother boxes. Unfortunately, it doesn't fix that silly name. Probably the most shafted character from the original Cyborg gets a full arc this time and a full backstory and everything, and he becomes one of the highlights of the film. And it's something I don't understand why it was left out. Why not do a 2.5-hour version and just put him back in it? It just didn't make sense to cut his entire thing out. I mean, he was the biggest change in the film. Also, the bland and terrible CGI villain Steppenwolf is not so bland, and his CGI is better. He actually has an interesting backstory and becomes kind of a scary and promising villain. And the ending fight scene is much better. The action beats play out nicely, the pacing is there, the CGI is better, and gone are the terrible, corny jokes that threw you out of the moment. It just goes on a little too long, which is a theme that I'm starting to notice with this movie. And for lack of a better term, it makes the ending fight a little bit more epic. And of course, the things that did work in the original still work here, mostly Batman and Wonder Woman. Now, for the bad. The story beats are mostly the same. It's your run-of-the-mill team-up movie, of course a little bit richer and longer, but all the story beats are still there. There's no surprises or left-turn story directions. It's pretty much the same story as the original, just longer. As I mentioned, Snyder doubles down on his worst tendencies. Dark, brooding characters, dark tones, sad songs, and the gratuitous use of slow motion. Seriously, you cut out every slow motion shot, the movie was like 10 minutes long. I'm kidding, but it was so much slow motion. It just kept going. It added so much to the running time. The film is an hour too long. As I mentioned earlier, you could cut out 30 minutes from the beginning, but there is a terrible and unneeded epilogue that just keeps going on. It's laughably bad. It's got some terrible green screen effects, and it's very obvious that none of the actors were in the same room. And also, some really, really shoddy camera work that I don't know what happened. It was like Zack Snyder got his cake, ate it, threw it up, then ate it again and said, this will be fine. Let's just keep putting this stuff in here. It's very obvious that they reshot and added these scenes, and they make no sense. This and some of the side plots that seem to go nowhere could have been cut. Plus, the film just doesn't want to end. Right when it gets to a point where it seems like it's done, it keeps going. There's another scene, and another scene, and it just doesn't want to end. But overall, let's celebrate the film for what it is. A chance for Zack Snyder to go back and finish what he started. It's weird, overly long, and violent, just the way Zack Snyder likes it. And it's a film meant for the fans and those who like having numb butts. But ultimately, it's a way to wrap up the story that Snyder started with Man of Steel 8 years ago. As the DC Cinematic Universe moves on from Zack Snyder, think of this as the swan song that never should have existed. And personally, I think it's time that we move on from the so-called Snyderverse and put this to bed. And end on a marginally high note. I give Zack Snyder's Justice League 3 out of 5. Hey, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed that, make sure to follow us on social media for movies of the week, reviews, and more, and we'll see you next time.